Hello and welcome to Froch on Fighting. My name is Carl Froch, former unified super middleweight world boxing champion and International Boxing Hall of Famer. This episode is brought to you by Cobra Casino. Right, let's start today with Chris Eubank Jr and Conor Benn. Last week I had a sit down with Turki Al-Sheikh himself. Got the exclusive, that's what we're doing on Froch on Fighting. We get the exclusives. And he did say to me that this is one of his fights he wants to happen. It's on his wish list. So it's looking like it's going to happen in London, because that's what he said, which is great for the fans, and it's going to happen in April. Now, at the time of this recording, it's not been officially announced, but it's looking likely to be April 26th at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So what's my level of interest in this fight? Obviously, Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn, back in the 90s, big names, massive names on terrestrial television, probably drew about 14, 15 million views on standard television. Do we call it standard, linear, terrestrial? Everybody was watching. They had two fights. The first one was a win by Chris Eubank. Second one was a draw. So Eubank has probably got the bragging rights, but the fact that they've got massive history and a bit of beef from back in the day, because it was a genuine rivalry, probably one of the biggest rivalries in British boxing, up until me and my mate Georgie Grovesy boy had a little bit of beef with each other, but that got settled in it at Wembley Stadium, boom, with that right hand in front of 80,000 fans. But we're not here to talk about that. So Eubank Jr, Conor Benn, the fight's looking likely to be happening. How interested am I in it? I've got to be honest, I want to see the fight. The history of the fathers makes me more interested in it, I've got to be honest, but what's at stake? I don't want to pour any cold water on it, but there's not much at stake. Obviously, Chris Eubank Jr has already been beaten. He lost to Billy Joe in a close fight that actually I thought he could have won. He lost to George Groves, my old mate, and he also got battered, didn't he, by Liam Smith. Now, he took some weight off in that Liam Smith fight. He was down at 160, or was he down at 157 for a bit, and then did the fight get made at 160? But Chris Eubank Jr, to make an excuse for him, he looked dead at the weight, and Liam Smith performed well and battered him. Now, Eubank got the rematch, and he got the job done. Liam Smith was then he didn't do the weight properly. I mean, his fighter's getting in the ring ill-prepared and not right. It's not good for boxing, but Eubank Jr corrected that bad loss against Liam Smith, but he still has lost. So with them 3 losses on his record, it's took the edge off the fight. I mean, if he was unbeaten, or if he didn't lose in such a manner to Liam Smith, I'd say this fight's a little bit more interesting than what it is. But Conor Benn is unbeaten, and Conor Benn's on the climb back since failing that drug test. I was in London in October 2022, ready to see this fight then. I drove down there, I was working for BBC 5 Live Radio, and I got the news. I got the news off the producer. This fight has just been cancelled. Conor Benn has failed a drugs test. I'm like, oh no, what is going off? So I was looking forward to that fight. What's that, 2, getting on for 3? Well, just over 2 years ago, that fight was going to happen. And since then, Eubank Jr has been beat. And he's got older. What is he, 30, 35? He's 35 years old. And when you get to 35, things start to slow down. Everything starts to go wrong with boxing. Your reflexes go, your speed goes, your energy levels start to reduce, your testosterone levels drop. So as a natural human being, unless you're juicing, you start to go on the decline. And I just think Eubank Jr probably has had better days behind him than what are in front of him. But it's still a big fight. Conor Benn, what's he done for 2 years? He ain't done much, has he? He had 2 years off with his failed 2 drugs tests. It was clomiphene, and apparently it was 2 drugs tests failed. We're still no clearer on what's actually happening. Is this fight sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control? Has Conor Benn got a licence by the British Boxing Board of Control? We don't know yet. All we know is he is cleared to fight. He can fight, which is great news. Because people are going to be annoyed and pissed off and say, well, we don't know what's happening. But listen, if he can fight and has been cleared, then you're going to have to get over it and look forward to the fight. There is still a little bit of grey area on that, and it does leave a bit of a stain on his name, but he's going to have to be the bad guy if that's what it means. But the fight's happening, I'm looking forward to it, and I just think that by the time this fight comes around, it will be massive. I'm not sure what the genuine beef is with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. I know they've got the history, like I've mentioned, the father's name, Ben Eubank, it's a big names. But Chris Eubank seems quite chilled and quite happy and smiley. But every time Conor Benn comes into close proximity with Chris Eubank Jr, he turns into a roadman killer, doesn't he? He's got serious beef. Every time he gets in his face, he puts it on him. Says he don't like him, he even hates him. He wants to smash his head in. I'm like, is this just selling the fight, or is this genuine needle? And if it is genuine needle, what's it for? Is it why you got so much beef? Is it just because of the family name? Is it are you so proud of your name and you wanna let this legacy continue? Is this a name legacy fight? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you think this fight is really, really important, or if it's just about the names. I mean, Conor Benn could do with winning this because he's 28 years old, and moving forward, he's got a potential bright future ahead of him. Chris Eubank Jr. wins this fight. I'm not sure what doors it opens for him or where it takes him at 35 years old, because in my opinion, at this age of your boxing career, then you've only got 2 or 3 years left, especially at this weight. And that's a nice caveat to the weight, because the weight for me is an issue. It's made at 160, which is probably Chris Eubank Jr.'s, probably a little bit lower than what Chris Eubank Jr. can perform at his best. He's had some good fights at 168. I know he lost to Billy Joe Saunders. I think that was at middleweight, 160, or was that super middleweight? Listen, he lost to Billy Joe Saunders, up in and around that sort of weight. He also lost to George Groves at 168 pounds, but his best wins have come at 168, super middleweight, my weight division. He'd be James DeGale, he'd be Arthur Abraham. Okay, these fighters are probably just past the best, especially Abraham, because he was getting old. I mean, I battered Abraham probably 4 or 5 years before that, maybe even longer, but still a good fight, and still 2 good wins for Chris Eubank Jr. at 168 pounds. So at 35 years old, my concern is not so much getting down to 160 pounds, which is the middleweight limit. It's then the rehydration clause that they've put in place. They said that he can't weigh in more than 10 pounds over the 160 mark. So he can't be 170 pounds the next morning. So he can't fully replenish and rehydrate, which I think is unfair, and it's potentially dangerous, because Chris Eubank Jr. is getting on for, he's 35 years old, 36 years old, whatever he is. And at that age, when you're taking weight off, it's dangerous. You need time to rehydrate, and you need to be able to eat and drink, more so drink and hydrate yourself effectively. So I don't like the fact that this has got a weight restriction in terms of the rehydration clause. You can't weigh more than 10 pounds the next day. I think if you're going to make the fight at 160, just make the weigh-in the day before like it is, make the weight, and then let these guys go off into the sunset and eat and drink what they want until they get into that ring. The IBF sanctioning body do use a 10 pound weight limit. They do have a weight rehydration clause to stop people from taking too much weight off and then piling it back on. So that's supposed to be for safety. But in this instance, I think Eubank Jr. getting down to 160 and then limiting himself, I don't think it's good. I don't know where his dad is as well, because his dad said he won't be fighting at a lighter weight than 168 because he can't perform underneath that super middleweight limit. So I don't know what his dad's got to say about this. I think Chris Eubank Jr. and Senior have still yet to have a conversation, or still yet to be seen together and getting on. I think Chris did say, the Junior did say he wants to speak to his dad, he wants his dad involved, but we've not heard anything from Chris Eubank Senior. So I'd like to know what his take is on this weight of 160 pound and this rehydration limit. But for now, we've got to accept that the fight's at 160. They're sort of the parameters that are being put in place at the moment. It's going to be in April. It's going to be in the UK. So it's a big fight that we can look forward to. But there's lots of questions to still be answered on the build-up to this one. What I do find interesting is who's the bad guy in this fight, because usually you've got a good guy and a bad guy. And with it being Ben Eubank, everyone was like, there was a genuine needle, genuine rivalry. Conor Benn for me is the one coming across like he's got a major problem with Chris Eubank, and it's almost like an unnecessary bit of needle. It's like he's got problems with him, don't like him. I mentioned it earlier, but I don't know why that is and where that sort of derives from. There's no real explanation as to why he hates Chris Eubank Jr. so much. It just doesn't make any sense. But I think going into this, maybe Chris Eubank Jr. has connected with the fans a little bit more. He's had a couple of decent little wins, which I mentioned earlier, DeGale and Abraham, but he's had a couple of close losses, like with the Groves loss. He won the fans over because he fought until the end there and lost a decision in that Super Series. So there's a lot to like about Chris Eubank Jr. And when Conor Benn's on him and threatening to strangle him and getting right in his face, Eubank just quite calmly and articulately relaxes and composes himself and doesn't make a big issue of it. I think the bad guy is probably actually thinking about it is definitely going to be Conor Benn, and it's his attitude, which I like his attitude, I like his fighting attitude. And when I meet him personally face to face outside of the ring, can I just say he's one of the nicest kids I know. Very friendly, very engaging when you talk to him. And he's just a nice kid. He's obviously had a good upbringing. I think he he grew up, didn't he, in Tenerife. He speaks Spanish. And I think he's had quite a chilled, relaxed upbringing. I feel like he's a nice kid. He might not want to portray that image, but my opinion of him is sound. He's a nice kid. But obviously, the biggest problem he's got is he failed twice for clomiphene. I don't want to keep banging on about it, but we've not had a satisfactory explanation as to why Ben failed 2 drugs tests for clomiphene. And the fans are going to keep banging on about it and going on about it. And they're going to be saying in the comments below this video, Froch, you've not put it on him, you've not mentioned it, you've let him have a blie, you've let him off. Well, let me tell you something. My hero, Roy Jones Jr. failed a drugs test. I mentioned about Tyson Fury last week, how he went on a bender for 2 years after beating Klitschko at that cold night in Dusseldorf. Well, I forgot to mention that he failed a drugs test. I mean, who else? Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia. The list goes on, and you can call them all drugs cheats if you want. But the fact of the matter is they've failed drugs tests, they've served the ban, and then they're back getting on with their career. And that's what we have to do with Conor Benn now. We have to accept that he's failed the drugs test. Okay, we've not had a satisfactory explanation, but let's enjoy the rest of his career now and hope he doesn't make a mistake again. Whether it was his mistake, his team's mistake, whether it was by accident or whatever the explanation is. I mean, we would like an explanation, but we're not going to get one. So I think we need to move on from it and just enjoy the rest of his career because he is a really, really exciting prospect. He's 28 years old and I think he's got a potentially really, really good future ahead of him if he can get past Chris Eubank Jr. Right, so who do I make the favourite in this fight? Who's going to win? Who do I think is going to win? Listen, I'll probably give my full breakdown and my prediction before the fight happens. But what jumps out at me immediately is that Chris Eubank Jr. is probably going to be too big for Conor Benn. He's a 168-pound fight up at super middleweight. And Conor Benn's like a 147 fighter and he's campaigned at 154. I think when he stopped Chris Algieri, it was probably his best win, a former world champion, but well past his best. That was a good knockout win, fantastic right-hander, straight on the virulin of Chris Algieri, and he landed face first. And that was a good performance. That was a great performance from Conor Benn, but it was at a lighter weight. So I'd always say a good big un always beats a good little un. But obviously, Chris Eubank Jr. is getting on for 36 years old, and he's got this rehydration clause. So I do worry about that, which I mentioned earlier. So the longer this fight goes on, the more chance Conor Benn's got of winning. But when you consider what Conor Benn's done since he got banned, he had a couple of years out. He's had 2 fights in America. I think they've both gone the distance. Maybe one was a 12-rounder, one was a 10-rounder, but they both went the distance. The opponents were there for Conor. They was brought in for Conor Benn to look good and bang him out, and he didn't seem to be punching hard. He didn't get the stoppage. He went the distance twice, which is good, rounds in the bank, but it's not selling it to me that he's this big monster puncher, even at that weight, 147 or 154 pounds. So up at 160, are his punches going to have the effect on Chris Eubank Jr.? I honestly don't know. I can't see him really putting a dent in Eubank Jr., but then you get flashbacks to the Liam Smith Eubank Jr. fight and think, well, Liam Smith wiped him out. But Eubank Jr. was obviously knackered at the weight. So I just think that all the variables, and you look at who's done what and who's the bigger, stronger man and who's got the experience at world level, you're gonna have to say Chris Eubank Jr. He's fought Groves, he's fought Billy Joe Saunders, he's been in and beat Arthur Abraham, James DeGale, former IBF super middleweight world champion. He beat him. So he's performed at a better level and proven that at a higher weight, he kind of belongs around the world, sort of the world level status, where Conor Benn hasn't done anything. He's done nothing. Make no mistake. Yes, he banged out Chris Algieri, who was a former champ, and he looked good doing it. But it was a way past his best, Chris Algieri. I was working the commentary team for him alongside Roy Jones Jr. when Billy Joe Saunders fought Canelo Alvarez. And Chris was saying to me, I'm not in the gym, I'm not training, I'm not interested in boxing anymore. I'm going to concentrate on my punditry. About 6 months later, I'm seeing getting knocked out by Conor Benn. I thought, what is going on? Why do these fighters do it? Obviously, some of them need the bunts. But yeah, if I'm going to pick who I think is my immediate favourite for this fight, I'm going to say Chris Eubank Jr. based on everything I've just told you. Let me know Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Let me know who you think wins the fight, because I'm going to be interested to read through this. I want to know what the feedback is. And like I say, before the fight, I'll do my big preview. So moving away from Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., I may actually go to the press conference and get them to open up a little bit more about what I've spoke about. So hopefully I'll get to talk to them in a couple of weeks or so. But moving on from that, the Misfits boxing happened at the weekend. I was sent messages and people were sending me stuff saying, are you watching it? Have a look at this. So I had a look at it. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. Oh my fucking good night. What a load of shit. It's a shit show, basically. And I think the officiating and the judge, the refereeing and that, it's bad. I saw Ty Mitchell run up behind Tommy the Hench from behind and smack him inside of the head with the inside of his glove. I mean, that sort of thing don't happen in British boxing, border control officiated fights. It's just dangerous and it's wrong. I mean, he was over the rope, over the top rope, wingmilling at one point, and the ref should have jumped in and said, hang on a minute, get away, warning, don't do that again. And there'd have been a bit more law and order in the ring. But the knockout where he sort of chased Hench down the ring when he was walking away with his back turned. I know you've got to defend yourself at all times, but the referee should have been in there and should have sorted that out. And then, what did I see? I saw Darren Till, this geezer called Darren Till from Liverpool, fight. Who did he fight? I don't even know who he fought, but it was a fucking crap fight, wasn't it? It was he fought a midget, a guy half his size, apparently from America, who's not a bad fighter. It was absolutely rubbish. I was actually offered the fight with Darren Till. Mams Taylor phoned me up and said to me, look, I'll offer you the fight. It wasn't a bad little bit of bunts, really. And I thought to myself, I need at least 4 weeks in the gym, and it was over Christmas, and I'm busy with the family, I go away, I've been skiing, I've been travelling around, I've been doing a lot, and I thought, I'm only going to have a week, actually, from being back on UK soil to actually getting in the ring, and I thought 1 week's probably not enough, even for the Cobra, the former unified world champ Hall of Famer, to go in there and bash up somebody who can't fight in the boxing ring like Darren Till. He might be decent in the MMA world, I don't know. I mean, I've seen him been choked out and KO'd a few times, so I don't know how good he is, so I'm not having a go. But in the boxing ring, I thought I'd need at least a month in the gym. So I turned it down, and I should have probably took it, to be honest, because I think I'd only needed a couple of rounds of shadow boxing to deal with Darren Till. He's not a fighter, he's not a boxer. He can stand there, he's got balance. He lines his jab up a bit, but honestly, it's a one-round job for the Cobra. It's not happening. I'm not fighting. This ain't a call-out. Don't know any idiots coming back saying, calling out Darren Till. I'm not. But listen, it's an easy job for the Cobra. Look at what I've done. Look at my resume. Even 10 years retired, that sort of thing would be easy. So maybe I shouldn't have turned it down. Who knows? Because it could have led to bigger things, couldn't it? It could have led to the fake guy that people keep talking about. But there was an opportunity to fight Darren Till, then potentially Tommy Fury, and then who knows where it goes. But I'm a journalist now. I'm a Froch on fighting front runner. This is what it's all about. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see the Cobra back in the ring. This straight nose, get this dented. We don't want to know. My wife don't want to know. So I have to listen to what the wife says every now and again. But yeah, that's what I thought of that. I thought it was a shit show, and I think the officiating needs to be improved. And, you know, Darren Till, sling your up, mate. Not in this lifetime. And then what else did I see? I saw KSI jump in. Did Wayne Bridge get in the ring and face KSI? He walked right into it, didn't he? Because KSI, the little worm, the little turd, as Simon Jordan called him, he started on his missus and the whole John Terry shenanigans back in the day, bringing up old shit. You know what I mean? Bring up some new material if you can have a go at someone. Wayne Bridge, really, should have slapped him across his stupid chops, straight across the mouth. If you're going to talk like a bitch, you get slapped like a bitch. That's what I'd have done. In my world, that's what happens when you talk bollocks. But Wayne Bridge kind of let him get away with it. Stood there like a gorm, like, yeah, okay, oh, is that all you've got to say? And now he's pulled out the fight. So that was like just pointless, wasn't it, the whole thing? But yeah, I mean, just to add to the shit show, we had that, and now the fight with KSI and Wayne Bridge, which actually I would probably been looking forward to for 10 minutes, but now it's not happening. So I don't know.
Can Wayne Bridge actually fight?
I don't know if Wayne Bridge can fight. Maybe he can have a go. He looked big enough. Wayne Bridge, can he fight? My wife's asking in the background, can Wayne Bridge fight? Who knows? But we're not going to find out now, are we? Because KSI talking bollocks has ruined it. Right, that's it for another episode of Froch on Fighting. Hope you enjoyed it. Quick mention about the weekend. Dalton Smith's fighting. He's a good little fighter, he is. I like watching him fight. He goes for it. I love a fighter that goes for it. And also Ellie Scottney, she's on the card. So good luck to the fighters this weekend. Ellie Scottney was actually down at my old amateur boxing club, the Phoenix ABC. So I nipped down yesterday, went to see her, had a little chat with her ahead of her fight, took a couple of pictures with the belts. So yeah, good luck to everyone on the card this weekend, and I shall see everybody next week.